Hi, I'm Susie Ann Ghost, and I get to talk to you about the 7 stages of learning a language, hidden benefits, and how to do it. So this is all about life skills and what will happen, how you benefit from learning a language. We've talked before about brain changes and improving your leadership skills by learning a second language, all about brain health. And this time we're going to talk about the actual journey of learning a language and how that's going to benefit you with each and every little step, from infants all the way to senior citizens. So let's get started and go through the slides I have to show you how you can actually improve your life immediately and your skill set immediately while learning a language. In addition to learning the language. Homeschooled kids. I have 5 children who we homeschooled. We have 2 graduates and just a few years left now. That's for my company, Flip Flop Spanish and Spanish Geniuses. Flip Flop Spanish for the younger kids, Spanish Geniuses for the junior high all the way up to high school. All right, first step, infants. So infants are learning a language already, right? They're learning their first language. They don't know a lot of words, right? They just, very few sounds actually have any meaning other than like fear and safety. They are constantly looking at your face, and they're looking for the meaning in your face. Tone, right? We can read a really scary story, but if we read it in like a little sing-song voice, they're happy. They focus on tone. And then the words that are the most repeated are the words that grab the meaning the most. And so that's why the dada and the mama are constantly trying to get them to say their syllable first. And of course, their needs are a priority. So they'll say mama, dada, baba, for bottle. And that's what they're focusing on. Okay, so how does that transfer to learning a second language, learning Spanish, or whatever second language you're doing? Here we are, same idea. If I spoke Spanish to you right now, very few sounds would actually have a meaning, but you might be able to hear the concern in my voice for safety or fear. You're going to be looking at my face. So I'm leaning forward. You're looking at, okay, what in the world is she trying to say? You're looking at my mouth and my eyes to see what's happening. A child is doing this, and then the very first stage of learning a language, same idea. You're depending a lot on my tone, depending of us saying, what is she trying to say? And you're trying to get some ideas from tone. And then same idea, you've heard gracias tons of times, you've heard baño, you've heard de nada. And so those words that are mostly repeated, hola and adios, those actually have meaning because of the repetition. And then, of course, especially down here in Texas, everybody needs un baño. So everybody knows baño because it's a need. So thanks so much, Suzanne. What does that mean? How do I actually apply this? Well, while you're learning your language, you want to listen a lot. So I wouldn't say the Spanish radio. A lot of people say, oh, listen to Spanish songs, but you're not going to grab a lot of meaning from that. So I would say if you have a Bible app and you listen to that, put that in Spanish, especially your favorite psalm or your favorite chapter of the Bible. Listening to that, you're going to grab some meaning from that because there's going to be enough cognates. And this can be in German, in Spanish, in French. If you have the Bible app, listen to it in that target language, and you're going to be able to start absorbing some meanings. The simple words, practice those. This journey is going to help you. And then watching the mouths of the readers. Obviously on the app, you can't watch the mouths, but if you're watching a TV show or watching a commercial in Spanish on YouTube, there's all kinds of little skits, lots of learning abilities there from the beginning, alphabet all the way up to, fluency. Watch the mouths of the speakers. That's what a baby does when they first learn. You say, okay, so you're teaching me how to learn Spanish. How does this affect my life? Other than learning Spanish and being able to communicate in Spanish, what other effect? This is going to give you a strong beginning. So you're setting up your synapses, you're setting up your habits, and these habits are going to affect the rest of your life. There it is. Also, you're building a relationship, not only with the people around you and whoever speaks Spanish and whoever's learning with you, it adds another new connection. Just like when you have some sort of interest with one of your children, or if you had an interest that coincided with one of your parents and not the other, that was a place you connected differently, right? Same idea. If you choose to learn a language with another human that's important to you, you're going to have a new connection. So that's going to build a relationship that you wouldn't have outside of that. It's different. So these effects influence all of your life, not just learning Spanish. But learning Spanish is almost like the bonus, isn't it? Okay, yay, infancy is done. Now we're to the toddlers. Toddlers learn their first language initially with just nouns, right? We're constantly saying, look at the mom over there in the picture. She's holding, it looks like a cracker or a square. They're learning shoes, they're learning toys. There's so many things. They know the word no really well. The parents are starting to put in scheduled times also. It's nap time, it's eating time. So we're starting to add in a schedule of some sort. We're looking at their faces and we're telling them, are you happy? Are you sad? Oh, you're angry right now. We're giving them permission to have emotions, and we love to add in music. They're letting their little bodies move with rhythm. They're letting themselves feel the emotions of music as they're growing and developing. Lots of repetition is important at this age. And so what about with Spanish? You're in your second stage. Let's say you're in the toddler stage. You're past the infancy. You can hear nouns. You're so excited. You're like, oh, I can do a flashcard and I can learn a noun like, here's el perro. Here we go, like this. And so you're like, oh, I can do simple nouns now. And so you're excited because it's not just gibberish. You're able to pull out words. Here's el libro. And so you're hearing the word and you're like, oh, yeah, Senora Gross, I totally know el libro already. You don't have to show it to me. I already know it. I even know how it's spelled. And so as a toddler, you don't know how it's spelled yet, but you know what words mean things. At this stage, you're going to need to start putting in scheduled times. Otherwise, you're not going to progress. And when you don't progress, you get frustrated, and that tells you, oh, I'm not good at it. And that's not the case. You just didn't schedule in times. So just like a toddler, you have to start scheduling in the time to actually learn and absorb and be around Spanish. Engaging emotions, talking about how are you, ¿cómo estás? Estoy bien. Actually answering for real, estoy cansado, I'm tired, tengo sueño, I'm sleepy. So deciding on what your emotions are about things I like and I don't like. This is where you want to start taking your language to be able to describe your actual observation for the world around you. This makes it meaningful, just like a toddler. If it's not meaningful, they're off, distracted, and your brain is often distracted. Your brain is already hardwired to learn this way, your first language. Therefore, we need to mimic it with your second language. Music. Again, all of their learning is not in music, is it? All of their learning at toddler stage is they're looking at our face and they're communicating with us. They're communicating through experience and they're developing that way. Music is a good benefit, but shouldn't be the crux of your instruction or your absorption. Lots of repetition. So here we are again. El libro. El libro. El perro. El perro. Okay, so how do we apply this? Absorb it by just listening, getting yourself lots of opportunities to listen to the audio. There's Spanish books that have audio. There's all kinds of options out there to listen. Focusing on nouns. You learned nouns first with your first language. Learn nouns first with your second language. Focus on those. Your brain is hardwired to grab those most easily, which gives you motivation, progress, and performance where you're like, oh, this is easy. You don't want to think this is hard at the very beginning. And then add in music as an extra, if that's something you enjoy. Some people, it annoys them. If it's an annoyance, don't do it. But if you say, I'd like to learn the days of the week in a song, there are approximately 4,838,000 different videos on the days of the week in Spanish on YouTube. Free. Okay, what's the effect? Okay, I'm learning Spanish, Suzanne. What are my life skills that I'm actually going to get in the toddler area? Progress. When you have progress in one area, you get excited and your brain looks for progress in other areas. This is a life skill of something that's measurable. Last week, I knew 3 words. This week, I know 12 words. Last week, I didn't know the days of the week. This week, I do. I know how to say my name. I know how to say how old I am. That progress shows your brain, I can learn all kinds of things. So your toddler stage of learning your second language is super exciting part. There's lots of emotions. It strengthens your memory. And so the more you learn, the more you learn. Your memory is like a muscle that's just warming up. And right now, at this stage, you're learning how to learn. And you're going to start seeing, do I learn best with photos? Do I learn best with acting it out? Do I learn best with writing it down? How do I learn best? A lot of people learn best by repeating, seeing the item and repeating the item. And you're creating good habits. Wow, I scheduled in time to learn the language and I'm learning the language. How about that? That's a great habit for your life skill in all the other areas. All right, elementary kids. I love all the ages. I'm always like, I love this age, but I think I love all the ages. Elementary children are always focused on doing when they're communicating with each other. They're not like sitting around discussing their emotions or literature. They're usually doing something. They like challenges. They want you to tell them they can't do something, and they're going to find that fun. Anything that's a lot of repetition is actually boring. Anything that's silly, they love it because it's a good memory. They love being silly, something sudden that jolts them. They like to be surprised. So with Spanish, you need to be focusing on doing. A lot of my videos for this age and a lot of my classes, I am drawing. And so I'm telling them what I'm drawing. And guess what? I'm making it a little bit difficult. It's not super simple drawings. I'm giving them a challenge. While I'm speaking in Spanish, I'm stretching their ability and showing them that, wow, they can do this. They're so excited. And I try not to repeat myself, and I make it silly. So everything that we do with this age, with your brain, are really hands-on activities. Not too much reading, no drill or grammar. It's all hands-on. So with the flashcards, we're laying out silly sentences. We're seeing if we can touch them really quickly. We're seeing if we can repeat. All those different activities, lots of games, lots of competition for this age. Oh, look, there it is. So lots of competition, games, and making funny, silly sentences. So they might say, I like the purple tall dog or the tall purple dog. And they just find it hilarious because they communicated something in a second language that's kind of like decoding, and it's funny. They achieved that. That's a wonderful event, and that's going to fire those synapses in the brain in a way that you cannot reproduce in any other subject in any other event. These are special parts of the brain that only work for second language. Otherwise, it stays like a dead, sad, gray, shriveled lump. But you're going to wake it up, and you're going to wake your own brain up by doing this. So what's the effect in my rest of my life? Well, they go, whoa, I can speak a whole funny original sentence. I'm not just repeating, and I'm not just answering a question you asked me. I'm creating my own thought. And that gives confidence to every other subject, every other arena in life. Again, you're strengthening memory, which improves wit and also gives confidence in being able to speak and communicate. And there's the motivation. Once you get your memory better, you say, wow, I can do other things. Let's try the next topic. Let's try the next theme. What else can I do with this? Okay, preteens. I'm going to say it again. This is my favorite. This is actually my favorite class to teach. Whenever I get a dozen to 14 preteens together, man, it is just a blast. There are so many emotions. We're so obnoxious. They have the craziest off-the-wall opinions. They're like decoding everybody. They're constantly saying, is she being ironic? Are you being hypothetical? They're trying to figure out each other, and they think they really have the corner on the market on what they actually meant. They're really wanting you to mean something that you're not saying because they think they're clever enough to figure it out. They're almost their own person, and they're figuring out that they're gonna be their own person. So there's a lot of fear here too, lots of hormones. They want to be the hero. They want to read stories with heroes, and they're always asking why. What's your motivation behind that? So with learning Spanish, same thing. We're starting with I like and I don't like. We're talking about we're describing things that's horrible, that's disgusting, that's fantastic, it's phenomenal. We're using really big words to evoke emotion in the person that's listening to them. They want you to know that they have a strong opinion. Lots of decoding. So at this point, we are doing fill in the blanks. We are circling the words that make the most sense. We're doing Mad Libs. We're finding out, okay, you know this many words in the song. What do you think this one means? So we're using context a lot. So if you are at the preteen stage of learning Spanish, which a lot of especially Texan public schoolers, adults that went to public school, you had enough Spanish that you can kind of be dangerous. And so you're constantly decoding, trying to figure out, like, I used to know what that word meant. And you're looking at the rest of the words, trying to figure out, is that a verb or a noun? And you're decoding. So this is where a lot of us kind of stagnate and we don't push through to the next part. You can read stories, and you always want to have a hero that they can identify with so that they're excited about decoding that story and comprehending. Their comprehension is really important at this area. Asking why. This is my favorite question to ask in Spanish. ¿Por qué? And they love it because they get to answer with ¿por qué? Why? Because. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? And they just love it. And so then they get to finish off with their reasoning. ¿Por qué es? Because it is. ¿Por qué no es? Because it's not. It's a lot of fun. Adding in descriptions, all the adjectives in the world, the craziest off-the-wall adjectives, including colors, numbers, and sizes. They want to add all those details to let you know what they're thinking exactly. And so if this is where you are, you want to add in more adjectives if you have a handle on nouns. All right, so the way we learn this is with short stories, some translation, not too much. They do enjoy it, but they like it from Spanish to English, not so much with the English to Spanish. That's a little bit harder for them. They're not quite ready for that. Watching their favorite movies in Spanish. This is a fantastic way to do it. Just their favorite scene. You don't want to watch the whole 2 hours, but maybe 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and then see what words did you decode? Which ones did you hear? Because they already have it memorized, don't they? So let them kind of make their own little glossary. We call it a personal learning dictionary. So I have these, and all my students have their personal learning dictionaries where they're writing words that they learned from watching a TV show and then guessing what they mean and then crossing it out and writing what they actually mean after they look it up. So it's very exciting for them to find out, oh, I can decode, and then checking for understanding. So what's the effect in real life? Well, emotional growth. Being able to express yourself in any language is huge. Being able to do it effectively and appropriately. Again, we're strengthening memory. Every single step is going to strengthen your memory, which is always a benefit. Your muscle in your brain, if you don't use it, you lose it, just like language. And empathy for other cultures. Once they're reading other stories, watching other movies, they're finding out not everybody on this earth is American. How about that? And with language comes a different culture. And some cultures, it's just different. And other cultures, there are parts of it that don't line up with our belief system. What does that mean for me? How am I going to respond? And that's when the parent training comes in, is recognizing that there's differences. Now, how do we respond to that? So these areas of learning a second language are very difficult to reproduce outside of learning a second language. Very important to everybody's education. All right, and then we get to high school, high school and beyond. They are racing. They are just eager. If you're at this point, you're like, okay, I know the basics. I know the grammar rules. Let me get more. They're trying to say more than they can effectively, and they're becoming very eloquent. So lots of mistakes at this age. They feel adult. They have some capacity to be an adult, but they're still immature and have a lot of errors and a lot of learning to do, and don't quite have the humility to do it well. That's sad. So in Spanish, it's the same idea. They want more words than they have, and so they have to do this thing where they're talking around the word. And so they may not know how to say crayon, but they could say, a colored marker that's small. And so they might be able to say something like that. So they're always trying to figure out, how do I describe this thing if I don't have the actual word? Of course, we all have a computer in our pocket now, and so it's a little bit easier than it used to be. They want to say more than they can, and they mess up a lot of idioms, a lot of just words that are used incorrectly because of culture and because of language is not a one-to-one translation. They mess up. They are excited about learning the tenses. They're not just saying in the present tense or the past tense. They want to speak in the future. They want to say, if I could, I would. Lots of conditional tenses, things like that. And tons of mistakes. This is the hardest part. This is the hardest balance at this age, is correcting them, yet in an encouraging way so they don't give up, because they want to be perfect and they're not going to be. So you have to correct to help them move forward, but not correct so often that they stop speaking. A great way to do this is have them act out skits. So they're adding the action to it rather than always just reading. You're giving them the grammar details, so they're writing out stories or letters to each other, and then we're correcting them on paper, which is a little bit nicer than correcting them when they speak, so then they can read their thoughts in Spanish. And then we have lots of live sessions. So I do that with Spanish Geniuses twice a week at least. We get online and we pick a topic and we just speak in Spanish. And so it's a lot of fun. Everybody has a chance to learn a few words, and then we ask questions and answer questions, and they're trying out their skills. Okay, life skills. What are the effects outside of Spanish? In general, you're becoming a better communicator. If you struggle to communicate in a second language, it automatically makes you a better communicator in your first language. I have a whole nother seminar on that. Watch my other seminar and you'll understand why. They become a better writer because they're comparing their first grammar, the first language grammar, to their second language grammar, and that makes them stronger. And then they improve their synapses. So not only are we making the synapses that are there stronger and faster, but we're creating new ones. So there's lots of shortcuts. They're able to grab bigger thoughts and bigger ideas in a quicker manner, which that's what wit is, right? Wit is being able to think quickly and respond quickly. And so the reason that happens is because you have more pathways. And there's just, like I said before, a dead part of your brain that doesn't wake up without communicating in a new language. It just doesn't happen. And then it decreases fear. The more mistakes you make and you didn't die, I can make more mistakes. So it makes you a better human in general, not fearful, able to get out there, try new things. What's the worst thing that can happen? I'll make a mistake. But guess what? You don't die. You move on. All right, adults. So this is our age range, ages 25 to 59, most of us. And what are we doing to learn to communicate? We're just immersed, right? We're learning new words all the time. We're learning new situations. Hopefully we're not stagnating. We're still reading books. We're still exposing ourselves to other movies. We like to create new opportunities with new people, new cultures. We still prioritize learning, either for our children, for our business. We're always trying to figure out what's the next step, how to improve our lives. And we're listening constantly. Hopefully we're not speaking quite as much at this age. We are listening and absorbing. And then we just repeat. So if we hear something that we're not sure about, we repeat it until we make sure we got it right. So with Spanish, if you are at the adult portion, very, very few people make it to this portion of learning a second language. You really have to be committed at this point. After you have a good foundation, I'd say Spanish 2 years of high school level Spanish, of that kind of study, then immersion is a good benefit. If you go before then, you're losing out on a lot of benefit because it's just over your head. It's the X+1 theory, and immersion is like X+1,000 if you're beginning. You need X+1. So you got to get your X wherever you are up to where immersion and being in a Spanish speaking community or country or situation is literally just one level above. Otherwise, it's not completely wasted, but it's almost wasted. You're creating opportunities for yourself to really practice your language. Again, it's prioritized because you know that every single day, if you don't learn a new word, you could have lost another word that you didn't use lately. Listening as much as possible, podcast, YouTube videos, TV, radio, Bible app. You're just really working on your accent, grabbing new languages, and then repeating. So you're saying things after the teacher, after the professor, after whatever it is that you're hearing to get better and better at it. You have to schedule it, okay? You need to choose somebody to schedule it with and play a game. Play a game. That will help you to learn super quickly because it only takes 6 times while you're in play to put something into long-term memory. Well, it takes 20 times to hit the same item if it's not in a play situation. Your brain responds differently whenever there's some sort of stake, some sort of revelry involved. The brain is amazing. What's the effect? Improves memory. Yay. Alzheimer's, dementia. If you have that in your household, if you have that up your line somewhere with your grandparents or great-grandparents, you want to learn a second language. It adds 10 years to the longevity before any kind of brain issues happen. And then muscle memory. So your muscle memory of remembering a language actually affects your ability to comprehend everything. So if you're like, oh gosh, I used to do math a lot better. I used to remember. I used to do recall. I didn't used to have to go into a room and wonder why I'm there. The reason that happens is because you're not using all of your brain. Things have gotten kind of easy for you. You haven't been challenging yourself. A language will challenge you and keep your brain healthy. And why wouldn't we want to do it? It's not like you don't even sweat. You don't have to put on special clothes. No extra shoes. No weird headband or fanny pack. It's learning a language, and it's going to keep your brain healthy, which affects the rest of your body. Okay, so this is why the side of my box says, for See It and Say It, ages 3 to 93, because our neighbor actually came over. He was 93 years old, and he was worried about dementia and Alzheimer's. And so he wanted to do something fun. My youngest at the time was 3 years old, and so he sat down next to her with the little flashcards. And so we had, let's see, I don't know if you can see up here in the little corner. You see me? So here we have, I don't like, what do I have? I don't like the funny book. No me gusta el libro cómico. No me gusta el libro cómico. And so he's sitting there. He's a full bird general sitting next to my 3-year-old, happily, without stress, learning. This is why kids, like seniors, play puzzles, right? Because it's low stress, but it keeps their brain moving. Lots of repetition is very important at this age. It's really hard to kind of reactivate that part of the brain if you've let it go. You want a slow pace. You don't want to be frustrated because you don't need that hassle at this age. You're like, you know what? I don't really feel like feeling frustrated right now. You want slow speech, so make sure everybody around you at this age is speaking nice and slowly, lots of enunciation, and then hands-on dexterity. Because our hands we don't use our hands as much as we age. You want to add that part to it. Body, mind, and soul are all together, and it's going to help your brain to grab the information. So same idea, low stress like puzzles, flashcards, lots of repetition, flashcards, slow paced, make sure you're listening it, touching and repeating it, learn with a grandchild, learn with the neighbor down the street that has a 3-year-old. Lots of success going, good job, you got it. So how do we do it? I said it, flashcards, no stress or low stress. We don't, like whenever there's the game of speed, I would skip that with seniors. I would not say, oh, you're going to try and touch it real fast. It's frustrating. So at that point, if you have a senior citizen sitting with you learning with See It and Say It, he would be the one that got to tell you who touched it first, rather than competing with the child. He would say, oh, you got that one. And so he's recognizing that he heard the word in Spanish, the kid touched the right word in Spanish, and that recognition is what will help his brain to grab the word, rather than the frustration of trying to get his, arthritic finger over to the card. Simple, quick goals. 3 words. So we usually have 5 words a week with See It and Say It, 5 or 6. But we did 3 whenever my 3-year-old was learning with the 93-year-old. And that was really beneficial. He was like, well, this is way too easy. And so we moved it up to 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 10 words a week by the time she was 4. And it worked. He stayed as sharp as a tack all the way till 99 whenever he went on to the Lord. So what's the effect? Improved connection. Isn't that wonderful to learn with somebody at an elderly age, to feel like you're encouraging them, to encourage yourself and have that connection and learn a whole nother language at an elderly age? It's really encouraging to everybody. Again, we're staving off Alzheimer's or any kind of dementia. We're helping keep our brain healthy. And then there's hope. It's really important for the elderly to be able to look down and say, not only is there hope for them, but there's hope for me. I'm still useful. I'm still doing new things. And I don't know how long I'm still going to be here, but what if I meet somebody who doesn't speak English and only speaks Spanish, and I'm the only one that can help them? What a shock. How fun is that to be the one that can swoop in and help, even though you only started learning it 2 months ago? So in general, the main idea is that you want to learn a language, not just for the language sake. In my other class, my other seminar, I'm telling you all about the brain health behind it. And this class, it's all about the journey is the benefit. Learn a second language. It'll benefit you in ways that you can't imagine and you can't measure. So my encouragement to you is to just keep on going. If it's 1 word today, it's 1 more word than you knew the week before or the day before. If you have any questions, contact me. I love this stuff and I would love to help you with Spanish, or if you have another language in mind. I do have a lot of friends that are in the network for like just linguistics in general, and I can help you find that curriculum that will be the best one for you.